Very few football players have had a bigger difference in reputation than Harry Maguire. So hello and welcome. Today we look at the rise, fall and eventual rise once more of Man United's third most expensive player ever and the most expensive defender in football history, Harry Maguire. This is how he went from being the biggest laughingstock in world football to someone known as someone with one of the biggest comeback stories in football history.
He was signed from Leicester City for £80 million, a world record price for a defender, and with this price came very high expectations, especially when people saw how well he performed in his previous Leicester City team. His debut performance for Man United, the opening fixture of the 2019-2020 season against Chelsea, ended completely differently to some of the games he would play later on in his Man United career. He put in a man of the match performance and played a key part in Man United's 4-0 win over Chelsea. At this point, Man United fans were over the moon with their new signing, with United stand founder Mark Goldbridge stating,
"Time in a Manchester United shirt. First time at Old Trafford, and he was just immense. There was a few good performances, but he was brilliant. He plays like a leader. He's intelligent on the ball. He likes to bring the ball out from the back, and his ability in the air is fantastic. He is a brilliant player."
And although his transfer price, which Man United paid to Leicester City, was unheard of at the time, costing more than Ballon d'Or nominee Virgil van Dijk, it seemed he was starting to justify that price. After playing at the club for only 5 months, Maguire was deemed the most experienced player and the best leader at the club by manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and was given the captain's armband on the 17th of January 2020 after the departure of Ashley Young was confirmed. He then somewhat settled doubts of his captaincy after his first game as captain, a 6-0 win against Tranmere Rovers, of which he scored a brilliant long-range goal, which was also his first for Man United.
Maguire continued providing solid performances in a fairly average Man United team, playing all 38 games of their Premier League campaign, being the first Man United player to make an appearance in all Premier League games since 1995, all whilst putting an average score on FootMob of 7.06, thereby making him, statistically, Man United's fourth best performer, closely comparing to former Ballon d'Or nominee Virgil van Dijk with an average rating of 7.27. His performance in the 2019-2020 Premier League season was considered decent, with most people adopting the view that no defender is perfect, and although he did create some mistakes, and with the COVID-19 pandemic making his form less predictable, his performance during the season was enough to help Man United go from a 6th place finish to a respectable 3rd place within just one season. A Premier League year of which Maguire would not have been upset about. Having an estimated net worth of 65 million by the end of the season, Maguire had came in 2019 and by mid-2020 he had gained captaincy and placed his mark within the Man United first team. His form was replicated similarly the season after in the 2020-2021 season, playing a similar level to the year before, helping Man United finish second in the Premier League and reach the Europa League final, and had he not been injured for the final against Villarreal, Man United could have gone on to win the tournament instead of losing on penalties. As well as this, Maguire played a key role in helping England reach the Euro finals in 2021, showing just how influential he could be on the football field, with the world's biggest talents all around him. It was fair to say Maguire had a firm grasp on his captain's armband. However, football fans were starting to get a glimpse of the meme, Harry Slabhead Maguire laughingstock, that he became soon after. With this I'm talking about the 21-month prison sentence that he was given for aggravated assault, all whilst on a holiday in Mykonos, Greece in August 2020. Along with this, mistakes became more common in Maguire's game, with a significant increase in times lost the ball and less tackles and chance stopped, taking his market price down to around 50 million. However, nobody could have predicted what would happen to this seamless, talented defender the season after.
It is early in the 2021-2022 season, and even from his first game back after the summer break, people could tell that this was not the Harry Maguire they had in seasons before. He was simply below standard for the first few Premier League games, putting in very average performances against Leeds, Southampton, Wolves and Newcastle, putting a doubt on if he was really worth the money that Man United paid for him. He looked lethargic and sluggish after his Champions League performance against Young Boys, rated just 6.6 out of 10. He found himself with a calf injury which would put him out of action till October 15th.
By October 16th, Maguire found himself 2 months into the 21-22 season with Man United, conceding a staggering 10 goals in just 10 games and no stand-up performances. He seemed like a completely different player than he had been the 2 seasons prior. However, on the 16th of October, Maguire showed the first real glimpse of the performances that would be ridiculed for weeks and even months after the game itself. Three crucial mistakes by Maguire against Leicester in Man United's 4-2 loss led to a 5.1 rating, and comments such as, "The fact Maguire is the most expensive defender in history is so jokes," and "Nice to see Harry helping Leicester and letting them score goals. That's class for 80 million." But this game was only the beginning of the slander of Harry Maguire. Maguire's season kept getting worse as he hit a new low on October 24th, 2021, when Maguire captained Man United in a game which was described by a user on Twitter as the worst footballing display by Man United ever, as Man United lost 5-0 to their biggest rivals, Liverpool. The unbelievable scoreline, matched with the abundance of viral clips, photos and memes, showed the real start of the mockery of Harry Maguire. People believed that the performance from Man United was simply unacceptable, and as captain, Maguire was at the centre of the blame. After Man United's embarrassing defeat to Liverpool, Maguire's season barely got better, as Man United drew to Atalanta in a below-average Champions League game for Maguire, and a 2-0 loss to Man City, both of which Maguire captained. We find ourselves on the 20th of November 2021 when Man United played Watford in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's last ever game for Man United, and for good reason. I believe this was Maguire's worst ever game, a 4-1 loss to Watford, where Maguire played abysmally and got a red card in the 70th minute. After the Watford game, Maguire arguably had the best run of games in his season, with decent performances against Villarreal, Crystal Palace, Norwich, Newcastle and Burnley. However, it seemed those games were forgotten almost instantly when Man United played Man City in yet another embarrassing defeat, where Maguire, in typical Maguire fashion, generalled the Man United defence to concede 4 goals for the 4th time that season. After any Man United game, all people spoke about were
Harry Maguire.
Harry Maguire.
It seemed as if Maguire had somehow forgotten how to defend. He could not seem to put a good performance in, and this reflected in the rest of the season when he was injured for a week, and the rest of the season consisted of performances such as 4-0 Liverpool, 3-1 Arsenal and 4-0 Brighton. Towards the end of the 2021-2022 season, the meme of Harry Maguire was at full force, with what seemed like every football YouTube channel uploading compilations of his mistakes. This was truly the lowest point in Maguire's career, as it seemed everyone knew of him and his awful performances on the football pitch. This was reflected as Man United finished the 2021-2022 season in 6th place with their lowest ever points total and 57 goals conceded, which was 21 more than Maguire's first season at the club. Maguire quickly became the player with the second most abusive tweets during the season, as every pundit, YouTuber and fan had the same opinion of him.
He's bloody useless!
This mockery was to such an extent that even a respectable member of the Ghanaian parliament started mocking him in a viral clip. He was simply booed any time he made an appearance for Man United or England, of which both were becoming more and more rare. To make matters worse, his transfer market price had decreased by 50% to 30 million, and his FootMob average rating for the season had dropped significantly to 6.85, making him statistically the 13th best United player of that season, even after playing 30 games for the club. Comments after his performances included, "Maguire throwing the captain's armband away like that shows how much he doesn't deserve it. Give it to Ronaldo," and "I'd rather play with 10 men than have Harry Maguire in my team," showing that he sometimes caused more bad than good. At the end of the 2021-2022 season, Harry Maguire had played 8 Premier League games less than his first season at the club. As well as this, his clean sheets with Man United had gone from 13 to just 6. It was fair to say that with a move in the summer looking more and more likely, Maguire was at rock bottom. The 2022-2023 season held no surprise for Maguire, as he served the punishment for the season before. With teammate Rafael Varane in very high form, and with Lisandro Martinez being transferred to Man United from Ajax over the summer, it was no shock to Maguire that his position in the first team was doubtful. However, with Martinez picking up an early ankle injury before the first game of the season, he was given the benefit of the doubt by new manager Erik ten Hag, as he was still deemed the next best option. Quite predictably, the game went poorly for Man United and Maguire, losing 2-1 and Maguire putting in yet again another weak performance. It just seemed Maguire had a curse surrounding him as he captained Man United to lose yet again in the game after, this time 4-0 against Brentford, which put Man United in the relegation zone of the Premier League. Man United would then take on Liverpool in the next match, and Maguire was put on the bench, to the relief of almost every Man United fan. Man United then went on a run of 4 wins in 4 games, with Maguire only making one appearance, which was for 10 minutes against Arsenal. It was clear to see Maguire was being gradually forced out of the first team. We move forward to the 8th of September. Maguire makes his first start for the club in almost 1 month against Real Sociedad. But in what seemed like typical Harry Maguire fashion, he played below average as Man United lost their first game in the Europa League that season. To make matters worse, just a week after he had played and lost a full game in the Europa League, Maguire was replaced by Martinez for a match against Sheriff, which Man United won 2-0 comfortably, showing that he had truly been replaced. Yet another spell of games missed for Maguire, this time because of a hamstring injury, which saw him miss another 7 games in all competitions. It is now the 25th of October 2022, and Maguire has only started 3 games for the team. At this point in his first season for Man United, he had started 13 games. After a 3-0 win to Sociedad, where Maguire made a brief sub-appearance, Man United won 1-0 against West Ham. Maguire played his first good game for Man United that season, and although a random mid-season game against West Ham doesn't seem that significant, it was secretly the start of Maguire's change. It was the first decent performance of the season, and it was the point of better performances to come. Despite this, because of the season before, it seemed the whole internet was waiting on his next mistake when he would play, and in a 2-legged game against Sevilla, he would give them what they wanted. His season had generally been mistake-free until Man United faced Sevilla in the Europa League. The first leg he scored an unfortunate own goal in the 93rd minute, and the second leg he gave the ball away easily in the back line to help Sevilla secure the game. Both these mistakes were flashbacks to the Maguire we had seen seasons before, and the internet definitely took advantage of it. Even after some very decent performances that Maguire gave, including games against Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth and Leeds, where he was rated above 7.5 on FootMob for each of them, because of the season before, his reputation was damaged so badly that even after a bunch of solid performances in the season, both when he started and came on as a sub, he just could not seem to shake the majority view of him. Maguire sat out the majority of the 22-23 season, making 16 appearances in the Premier League, only starting 8 times, compared to his first Premier League season where he started all 38 Premier League games. His season, for the most part, was very uneventful, with moments of both excellence and failure sprinkled in. However, despite all the abuse Maguire received during the season for the odd mistakes he would make, his overall performance was at a much higher level to the season before, and although he was still prone to making the odd mistake, people who watched him consistently started to see gradual improvement over the games he played. Maguire's 2022-2023 season was significantly better than the one before, with higher tackle success and fewer average goals conceded. West Ham clearly saw this improvement and in the summer approached Maguire, stating they were keen to have him at West Ham. To the relief of most Man United fans, and with Bruno being made the new permanent captain in July of 2023, Maguire was near to leaving Man United. At this point in Maguire's career, he had to make a choice: leave or stay. Now, a move to another club with guaranteed game time and a reasonable wage seemed like a no-brainer for Maguire, but it would mean playing for a worse club and lower wages, as well as the biggest reason of all, it would be an acceptance, an agreement that he had failed at Man United. But to Maguire's credit, his agent said he still wanted to play and fight for his position in the first team, and the next season he certainly would. The 2023-24 season, or the current season, was the season when Maguire would change the majority view of him significantly. Man United, throughout the whole 23-24 season, suffered a terrible injury crisis, with, at one point, the most players injured in the whole Premier League. Man United suffered this worst in defence, and to Maguire's luck, he was given far more game time than he would have expected for that season. With other, more favourable centre-backs fit, Maguire would not even see the pitch. For example, in the 1-0 win against Wolves in the first game of the season. He did, however, get his start for Man United that season against Crystal Palace in the Carabao Cup with almost no other defensive options. Labelled a performance to be proud of, this was just the start of his season. Man United would then take on Crystal Palace again, this time in the Premier League, where Man United lost 1-0. The interesting part about this game was that in defence, and for the defensive midfielders, the team was unchanged, apart from the only difference being Maguire not being picked in the team that lost and being picked in the team that won. This could potentially mean that Maguire was part of the solution for Man United that season and not the problem. Still, Maguire was out of favour when other centre-backs were fit, as Erik ten Hag benched him for a Champions League match against Galatasaray, which Man United's defence conceded 3 goals, losing them the match. Maybe Maguire wasn't the problem in the team. He would then start one of the best run of games, arguably in his whole Man United career, and it started with a match against Brentford, a 2-1 win with Maguire generaling a very weak defence, which included a centre-back playing left-back, and a 36-year-old loan player. Getting an assist and giving the Brentford attack no mistake to exploit was only the glimpse of the performances to come. The next 8 Premier League games, Maguire played every minute and helped Man United win 6 out of 8 games, with losses only to teams like Man City and Newcastle. He was the most important player for the majority of these games, with ratings for all of them being an average of 7 out of 10 or more. And the cherry on top being that he was nominated and won for the Premier League's November Player of the Month. Not a bad few Premier League games for Harry Maguire. Elsewhere, in the Champions League, Maguire still contributed to Man United with a winning goal against Copenhagen and a performance being the best of a bad bunch in games against Galatasaray and the second leg against Copenhagen. Although Man United had a fairly poor start to the season, Maguire was certainly not being blamed. Fans even applauded his performance when he came off injured against Bayern Munich in the Champions League. This groin injury saw him out of action for 5 Premier League games, and without Harry Maguire in the team, Man United won just 1 game out of 5. Appearances kept getting better for Maguire. In his first 4 appearances back from his injury, he saw 4 more wins with Man United. At this point in the season, a fan recording showed Maguire signing autographs and smiling as the fans chanted his name, and this clip went viral on TikTok. This was truly a great moment to see. Someone who was booed by his own fans as he came on the pitch just a few years ago was smiling as the fans celebrated his performances. Comments included, "Good to see him happy again after all the abuse he got," and "So happy for him, he has clearly worked so hard." Furthermore, up until the 7th of April 2024, Man United's success rate in the Premier League when starting Maguire was 60%, and without starting Maguire it was just 37%. Over this current season, he has put in several professional and quality performances. But for me, the most impressive part of his redemption was his mindset. No whining, no complaining, but Maguire used hard work to fight and arguably seal his spot in the Man United first team. A video from Mark Goldbridge, I think, sums up Maguire's redemption perfectly.
So Seb, I'm sure many of you know, is my son. He's 6 years of age. He had his little United kit on. I was asking him like who his favourite players are. Some of you might know. He said Harry Maguire again. And I was like, oh right, okay. He says, and you know what he said? He said, "Daddy, you don't like Harry Maguire, do you?" And I said, "I don't really think he's good enough." You know what he said? "Just because he sometimes scores goals for the other team, that's not a reason not to like him. He's trying his best and he just wants to be good."